If joyful connection is the great desire of all of us, it sounds like looking at these landscapes, we all pursue joyful connection in different ways. Some of us have had it. We have an experience of it, so we know how to look for it in a healthy way. And some of us, based on the way that we were raised, maybe we've been searching for joyful connection and haven't been able to really find it. So what does that look like as we dig into some of these landscapes?
The joyful connection is we're always pursuing connection. And if it can't be joyful, we're still going to seek connection anyway. So Todd Hall refers to it as, I think he says something along the lines of, we will pursue connection at any cost, even if it means having to leave parts of ourselves or exclude parts of ourselves in order to maintain some sense of pseudo connection. And so what we see in these landscapes is, the first question that we're all sort of born asking is, are there people who are available to me? And if you have a secure attachment, your answer to that question is yes, like what you were talking about, Stephanie. Not only were your parents available for you, but they made it clear to you that they enjoyed you. And that kind of connection gives you a resounding yes, my family is available to me. And you go out into the world knowing that your family is always here for you. They're going to be available to you. And we would call that living in the pasture. And we take that from Psalm 23, that the Lord is my shepherd. I lack nothing. He's with me, even in the valley of the shadow of death. He's with me in the presence of my enemies. All of that is exuding this sense of what it feels like to live in secure attachment. But if the answer to that first question of, are people available to me? If your answer to that question is a maybe, because your caregivers were sometimes available to you, sometimes attuned to you, and sometimes not available or not able to help you because maybe they had stuff going on for themselves and they got into protection mode and they were just taking care of themselves and you were more of a nuisance or a bother at that moment. That kind of inconsistency that makes you go, maybe they're available to me, causes you to live from what we would call the jungle landscape, or in attachment literature, it'd be known as preoccupied or anxious. And it's this sense of, I am going to prioritize connection, even if that means that I have to give up my own sense of being able to do things by myself, or give up my preferences, give up the things that I feel like are important to me. I will give that all up just so I can stay connected with you. And so it creates this high skill at being able to read people really, really well, because you learn to watch your caregivers waiting for the moment when they show any sign of willingness to connect with you, so that you can leap in, prioritize that moment, and connect. But that often means you're having to leave your own, what's good for you. You're compromising what's good for you because you're just watching the world around you, which makes it feel very much like you don't have a lot of agency or action in the world. You're just living in responsiveness to the people around you. And so we can call that like a hypervigilance around your relationships. You're prioritizing connection at all costs. On the other side of that, if you're asking that question, are people available to me? And you get this answer of no, not really. It's either because people are present physically, but they're not attuned to you. So there's this whole, you don't feel like they get you, or you don't feel understood. So they may be providing meals and they might be driving you to soccer practice and doing all of the other things. They might show up at your concerts and everything, but you don't feel any sort of emotional connection or availability. And so if that answer, or it could just be that they're not around very much, but either way, you end up with this, no, people are not available to me. And if that's the case, then you're still going to try to connect with people, but it's probably going to be more through a sense of performance or achievement, or doing the things that someone else will praise, because that's the only way they connect with you, is if they're praising what you do. And so your orientation becomes around, what can I do in order to be recognized so that I will receive what, that, and then that's like a pseudo connection, but it's at the expense of paying attention to my emotions and how I feel. You'll often not even, your brain will start to say that stuff isn't important, and you begin to notice it less and less over time, because the people in your life don't seem to care about that part of you. And so that leads to what we call living in the jungle. And if you think of a
The
jungle
desert.
environment,
Oh,
desert, I said it
yeah.
wrong. Thank you. jungle is the anxious. This is more of the dismissive, avoidant, what we call the desert. And if you think about the contrast even between those two landscapes, a jungle is full of life and activity, and there's all kinds of stuff going on, and you have to be hyper vigilant because you never know what's gonna happen. But in a desert, things are pretty barren, slow. They don't change a lot. You spend a lot of energy sort of conserving your resources. And so that sort of gives a picture of what it feels like to live in those landscapes where you're not feeling securely attacked.
And I just want to jump in that these are not like conscious questions that are then consciously answered, right? So as children, but even as adults, like, you're just looking for someone to be available. You're looking for someone to be joyfully connected with. And then you get like a regular response of like, yes, I'm here. Like, I'm ready to attune to you. Or you get those responses of maybe, or you get those responses that kind of tell you no, but they're really kind of submerged. And then we start adapting. We regularly adapt to the responses we're getting from our caregivers. And that's where these kind of we kind of internalize, right? That's the technical language. We internalize what's happening to us externally in our environment. And we really want to help people understand like those. And so we call them strategies. I think the technical literature is moving toward not talking about attachment styles, because that's too much like connected to like personalities that are just stable, or it's just kind of genetic, or it's a temperament. But rather these things are, they're adaptive strategies based on the environment and the regular real-time feedback we're getting from relationships and how they work. And the good news is we can have compassion for ourselves or others, and the environments and the attachment strategies that they've developed. But then the other part of the good news is that they can be changed and that we can move forward. We're not stuck. This is not like our destiny.
Right. I'm glad you brought that up, Jeff, because I know back in the day when attachments, theory first came out, the thought was you were stuck. Like, this is how you were born and this is how you will always be. And it has shifted into saying that even if you were born in one of these insecure attachments, if you find someone or some people who can become that secure base, that safe haven for you, you can find healing. It doesn't mean there aren't going to be some triggers or some automatic reactions. I mean, that hypervigilance doesn't ever fully go away, for example, if that's yours, but you have the ability to go, okay, I am safe. Everything's okay. So yeah. Oh, and so, okay, there was one more landscape to talk about. Was it war zone?
Yes. The war zone is the result of having unpredictable, and it's often born out of more of a traumatic experience where the person that you turn to for care and for getting your needs met is also hurting you in some way or another. So it could be abusive or extremely neglectful, but that creates this feeling of living in a war zone where you don't know where the landmines are. You don't know when an explosion is going to hit. You're just sort of always kind of bracing yourself. So spending quite a bit of time in that protection priority. And that's in the literature, that's called disorganized attachment, because it's hard to develop a consistent strategy in that environment. And so rather than having a consistent strategy that always works for you, you find yourself flip-flopping and sort of using any strategy you can get to. But then what worked last time doesn't always work again. And so it's a very difficult place to feel like you can find a footing.
Hey, missionary friends, we are so glad you joined us today. Make sure to subscribe to our channel so you'll be the first to know when a new episode drops. And click like and comment below. We love hearing what's resonating with you and what you'd like to hear more of.